Um, People think I do not look like that or I do not act like that because like that we have to uphold this image so that we admit that we're not okay, and that image is compromised and our whole being is compromised. And we'll talk a little bit about that throughout the presentation, how that image is to be so important that it makes us seem as something. And then society, a big one, right? How does society, the older generation within society, not everyone within it, but what she said here is that her parents didn't even believe that, mental, emotional health exists, which is, not true. I hope everyone knows that. Or they got told things that they're too emotional, or that you're PMSing in moments in which they're trying to express what it is they're going through. Anyone had the same? I just want to see if anyone had the same kind of experiences in what is within this slide, or what people have, right? So ever since a student told me that she doesn't really like being told, I don't like being told that you're not alone, I kind of hesitant to say it, but I hope that this could display that we all like had to put up with this BS. I mean, I'm trying not to curse because I know a lot of people here, and my wife is gonna not slap me, but she's giving me a face. She's like, "Oh my gosh," but it's just BS, right? Because it's not true that like these things, it just happens too often, and people think like it's gone now, or that we're a woke nation or something like that. But this happens all too frequently, still to this day, by the way. Doesn't make it right, and we got to call it out. And this is the start of reducing the stigma, is calling it out. Like, this is BS. Let's call it what it is. BS, right? And we are allowed to call it out. I hear a little baby. Tell the baby I say hi. So let me go to the next one so I can make sure I go through all of this. So people think, I really like this. People think it's black and white. Right. I still am a crybaby, Steven, and now I'm proud of it. You know what I mean? I don't always feel great, right? But that's an insult in today's day and age, is that you're too sensitive. I'm like, look at the definition of sensitive, first of all, because it means to be attuned to the emotions of others. Since when is that a bad thing? I don't get it. I know I'm biased on my therapist and whatnot, but it just doesn't make sense to me. Yeah, man. Who cries during movies? You know I cry during movies. I cry during, just don't get me started. Any movie, man. That's a good thing, to be in tune with your emotions, to be able to express them. Cry all the time. Cry squad for life, right? I mean, now since what happened with my mom, the tears come easy. You know what I mean? I think I cry every day on the way to work, and that's not, to other people, it will make them uncomfortable if you say that, but it's like, that's like freeing for me. Like that's great to embrace that I can cry. Like it's not, I'm not gonna stand for this BS that it's not okay to cry, right? Emotional vibes for life, man. But like, we're emotional creatures. So most of us, who else grew up being told suck it up? I hate this one so much. I shouldn't hate, but I have gone through worse. Have it easy, right? Oh my goodness, don't get me started, right? I agree, Stephen. It's an essential tool. Yeah, so true. Crying is an expression, exactly. People could express themselves in other ways, but God forbid you cry. Nah. We ain't rocking with that type of expression, right? Um, and as society, we're expected to be this picture perfect, right? And unfortunately, what perfect doesn't exist, but what apparently is a requirement of perfection is no emotions. Which is, crying would never solve anything. Well, being told not to cry also doesn't solve anything, right? Yeah. So, and a lot of times, of course, at Padron and also in Hialeah, like the student said, parents in Hispanic culture don't like to see you cry, essentially. I've gone through worse. Right. And the point is, we'll touch upon that. I'm like excited to talk with all of y'all. I appreciate the participation. But I know some of y'all have heard "Quiere llorar de verdad." I'll give you essentially, I'll give you a reason to cry. And we sitting here like, bro, I already got a reason to cry. That's why I'm crying, right? And also, you don't gotta prove your reason to cry, but don't get me started, right? So this is not something that we're all struggling alone. Like, even if finding out throughout here, we're seeing that like other people are experiencing this, and it's really important to acknowledge, right? Or he'll give me something to cry about. What? I know. That's tough, man. It's tough. But what I sense in here is a lot of generational curse breakers, you know, generational trauma breakers. And I'm excited because we got the tools needed. And I've been so excited to hear most of who I'm talking to. Like, I teach a counseling class, and my students are ready to actually help people and treat them like human beings. Anyways, how can we reduce the stigma? I'm laughing at my own meme. Sorry, I do this. I laugh at myself. We gotta laugh at ourselves, right? But she talked about breaking that generational ignorance that has led us to believe that it's bad to talk about our mental health struggles. So getting people informed, having events like this, which I'm so grateful for y'all to do this, Juan and Susanna and Mary. Like, it's great, right? Having events like this. Look how many people are in here. 80. I don't know how many are in that room. Like, let's go. Let's spread this word. Like, and to people who will listen, and even those that don't. But when we find people who will listen are clearly in this room, let's go. We already got a little army. Our army of emotionally in tune beings, right? Doesn't mean we got it together, though. Don't get me wrong. I don't got it together. All right. But I love what this student said too, is like changing the verbiage little by little within your friend groups. You know, like little jokes here and there. I know sometimes we don't like to get it serious, but we can get it serious and still make like a true connection will have vulnerability. Like, there's no connection without vulnerability. So if you have a true friendship, a true connection with someone, like, we got this. We can have these difficult conversations. Sorry, sometimes I want to read the comments. I don't want to ignore y'all, right? And this is for all the future therapists out there. Is that establishing trust is the first step. You know, a lot of therapists at times think that we just could jump into someone sharing all these things, but you know, that's not really how it should go down. And I agree with her, right? Work it nice and slow. So about the meme, when I first went to therapy, told me that, like, it was the strangest thing to hear. You always feel like somehow you did deserve it. Yeah, that's a byproduct. That makes sense, Stella. And that's why at times be really done alone, because it's hard. Like, our minds work against us. That's natural. I told Mary I would go through them. I'm gonna make sure I go through them all. I actually really liked this student response where she was like, make therapy mandatory like the SATs. Because how did the SATs serve you? Let me not go on my SAT rant. Don't get me started. But you know, how did all these tests and these exams actually serve your being, your spirit, your soul? Like, obviously, gay for president, right? Because I'll just make therapy a priority, and I think the world will be more empathetic. Easier for me to say, right? But I love her idea. Like, if you make it so much of a norm that she's like, it won't even be that it's weird that someone's in therapy, because everyone's like, it will be weird that you're not in therapy. You know what I mean? I don't even really like the word normal, but normalize is a good one, right? Because, you know, none of us are normal, right? We ain't got to go into that. But SATs produce the need for therapy, right? Not to, you know, I got jokes, but I'm just saying, like, these tests, these exams, and also, of course, always making it affordable, which is why it's great that MDC has this offered for free. Of course, I don't think it ever is enough, because there's always more we can do, and that's a good thing. Like, I'm not trying to be negative. This is a good one too. Shout out to my meme choices. So, and this student just told me to remind all of y'all that it's important to reach out for help, and as much as you think that nobody will understand, someone out there can get you. Like, and someone will. So the first person, second person, third person, fourth person. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. That many people, by the way, if that's the case. On the other side of the people that didn't and that did fail, there'll be someone that you're more compatible with. You know, a lot of times it really isn't your fault if you don't connect, right? And you don't have to go through the darkness alone, like she said. Exactly. Oh my God, you're spot on with my next quote, Maria, which is, by the way, a good follow on IG. Dr. Christina, if you don't follow her already, she gives me some good reminders as well. And there's so much out there on IG that actually is helpful and great reminders. And I got to make sure I share that. I should have shared some more pages to follow. But this is great, right? You see how I said, don't get me started. I'm going to get upset here. You know, I'm a little passionate out here. So I think what we can do to start beginning to reduce the stigma is to change up the narrative, as I said, to change up the story told in regards to some of these topics, these statements that I'm going to go through right now, all right? So believe it or not, you know, beyond contrary belief, beyond your parental's belief, or even someone that you tried to go through and they kind of just diminished it, You know, stress, anxiety, sadness, anger, lack of motivation, procrastination, even suicidal thoughts, even death wishes. They're a natural response if you go down and you actually look at the complexity surrounding the person's life. Because first of all, life is hard enough. You don't need to give me a reason. I believe you that it's a struggle, right? And working on your mental health is lifelong. So sometimes people are trying to find a finish line. And this is a difficult truth to accept, but it doesn't end. It doesn't end for me either. Because I'm a therapist, you think I got it all together. Heck no. If anything, the reason I don't have it all together. I didn't say that out loud, did I? Anyway, reaching out for help is courageous. It's not a sign of weakness. When someone tells you they're reaching out for help, applaud them. Tell them they're a badass. Tell them that they're courageous, because that is hard. You know what I mean? And we would all benefit from help. There's not really, you can debate me all you want, but I'd rather you debate a rock right now, because I can't really debate you right now. I don't got time. So, oh my God, I'm supposed to read this. We didn't change up the slides, Susanna. It's all right. So, anyone watch Vampire Diaries? Random transition, huh? I'm a Damon fan. Anyways, in Vampire Diaries, you know, you can turn off your emotions. It's a show. Kind of cool concept, except it turns you into a kind of Team Damon. Anyway, it could turn you into someone that's a little bit scary. Anyways, I just always think about that show, and I'm like, it would be cool if I could just turn them off, right? But then I would like spiral into something even worse, maybe. Anyways, newsflash, in case everyone didn't know, you can't really turn off your emotions. And what do people typically do when they hate something? You know, when you really dislike something, or even you hate something, what do you typically do? I told you I would ask you questions. I've been kind of running through, so I want to ask you one question. Ignore, shut out. Right, exactly. And we do the same for things that aren't like physically that we can't walk away from or ignore. We do the same with our emotions if we hate them. And I tell my one of the least favorite things my students hear from me is that you got to update your relationship status with anxiety, right? You got to update your relationship status with self-doubt. You got to update your relationship status with sadness. You got to update your relationship, because all those things are going to hit even if you got it quote unquote together. Because if we see our emotions, our self-doubt, all these things we go through as something that we hate, like I say, you gotta love it. But if you hate it, you'll ignore it. And if you ignore it, you won't work on it. And I don't blame you for ignoring it, by the way, because I do it too. I play as much Mario Party and Zelda Breath of the Wild that I can, and then I get to doing it. And then I get to trying to do the work, or having that difficult conversation with my wife. I'm not saying there's no perfect way to do these things, by the way, okay? Not at all. So you're allowed to slip up. Like, this is no perfection. And a lot of times people think that expressing these emotions actually give them more power. But it actually express them, to name them. To name them is like to put a leash on them. And that leash will still drag you, but you'll have something to grab onto because you're naming it. And that's sometimes the hardest part, is just to express what it is you're feeling. Like, damn, I'm sad as hell. Wow, that was great. Did anyone hear me? You know, like, so sometimes there's a lot more to it than that, but that takes us such a long way. And it's important to recognize that we can't shut people down when they finally express something. Even if we don't know how to act, just be like, wow, thanks for saying that. Compare our struggles. I know someone earlier said that I've had it much worse, and we'll go back to that, right? That's why it's how people respond and how we respond to ourselves is very important, because a lot of times the way that people have responded to us is the way that we will respond to ourselves. So just please try to keep in mind what bothers you is important. Not up for debate. Like, don't at me. Don't try it. It ain't gonna work. If it bothers you, it's important. No matter what anyone else has convinced you to believe, if it bothers you, it is important. Period. But what about this other? No. What about no? Just you? It bothers you? Important. I think we got that loud and clear, right? This is another thing that kind of goes against everything we've been taught, especially everything even I was taught, even with great support, is that we can be happy and sad, strong and weak, angry and excited. What I read and what I posted today actually earlier was that happy memories can create sadness. Absolutely. You know how many happy memories I have of my mom? And then I get sad? Something wrong with me? No, I'm a human being. Those memories are attached to happiness, but what makes me happy is also the source of my sadness. What a beautiful cluster bleep. I almost said it. I almost dropped the F-bomb. I won't do it to y'all. And we have to work to combat the perfectionism within all of us. Believe it or not, it's within all of us, even if we think we're quote unquote lazy. At times, what contributes to our laziness is perfectionism, thinking that we got to do it perfect to the point where we don't even want to do it at all. Or thinking we got to do it perfect to the point where we overwork ourselves. You know, perfectionism goes both ways. So we got to call that out. We cannot control. Anyone got fun thoughts that hit their head? I mean, I do. So we can't control all the thoughts that come to our head. And these thoughts don't define us. They really don't. You know, a lot of times we begin to think that these thoughts do define us. But even me, myself, has struggled with suicidal thoughts and death wishes, you name it. It doesn't define me. It doesn't stop me from helping people. It won't stop you either. One of the things that I had to remind my student was like, if I could be a therapist, you can be a teacher. Come on, look at me. You know how all over the place I am. It's not about that. It's about empathy. It's about love. And I know all of y'all have that within you. All right? So try to keep that in mind. When you get hit with certain thoughts, it's like, or other people have thoughts that they think define them, try to remind them, you're not defined by your thoughts. You can't control every thought you had. If I could control every thought I had, I wouldn't think of French fries so much or chicken nuggets. Like, what the heck? Like at random moments in time. Even from good thoughts to negative thoughts to all kind of random thoughts. Like if we had control of that, we'd be robots. So one thing we got to start doing and examining as we try to, reduce the stigma and change up the narrative. I like that, Stephen. I love quotes, phrases, all that. We got to examine, the systems that interact with that we are a part of, whether we like it or not, right? So on the left, anyone who wants to be a social worker, it's a very well-known social work diagram for what's called person and environment. Anyone ever heard that you're a product of your environment? I also think you can make your environment a product of you, but social learning, it's a big thing. Y'all heard of social learning and how we're social learners. We learn from what's around us, consciously and unconsciously. I can do a whole presentation on this, but what I want y'all to try to examine and take some time to think about is for the one on the left. That's you in the middle, the individual. You may not have a spouse, but what it shows as it goes outward, right? Those are our systems that impact us, our family system, our school and education system, our political system. And I ain't got to touch too much about stuff because it's going to get me upset. But we have to recognize that those systems, let me ask y'all something actually, because this is why I asked like almost everyone. Throughout elementary school, middle school, high school, how much education did you get on mental health, trauma, abuse, the effects of both? How much? All right, I got a few. I'm going to pretend I didn't see it. I'm just kidding. I'm glad that y'all got a few. But for the most part, it says none. And how much trauma and abuse do you think is present in this world? In Hialeah, in Little Havana? You're right, a lot. And I wish I didn't know that, but I could vouch for it myself. And you can too. Statistically speaking, there's multiple people who have been through a traumatic experience who've been abused in this room, right? And it sucks to say the least, right? So it doesn't make how these systems in place have nothing that emphasize the importance of education on these things, of support of these things. And sometimes, we got to work to try to dismantle these systems so that we can make them more empathetic, more loving, more kind, right? I mean, think about how norms influence us. Gender norms, societal norms. These things to certain people that would be like, you're thinking too much into this. It doesn't work like this. Like, you're just overthinking it. First of all, that's called gaslighting. Second of all, don't listen to them. Keep examining. Keep learning about the systems around you. They do impact us because literally the person who responds to you saying, I've had it worse, doesn't even realize the impact that system's having on them because that system, whether it's the family system or the school system or the political system or all the above, taught them that. So they began to believe it, right? That someone has it worse or that it's weakness, it's weak to be vulnerable. These are influence. So if we call out these systems, we can start to call it out within. And if we call it out within, we can call it outwardly. Hopefully that makes sense to y'all. Maybe just a little bit, right? And on the right, everyone knows about Maslow, my great-grandfather. I'm just kidding. He's not my great-grandfather. But Maslow came out with a hierarchy of needs, right? Um, so I know a lot of people, I know a lot of parents, especially in Hispanic, I can only speak for Hispanic culture, but, or it's just, I think across the board, really, actually, now that I think of it. But they'll be like, anyone ever been told, like, I put a roof over your head, I gave you water, I gave you food, what more do you need? Well, I'll tell you what more you need. Love, right? You know, love, respect, the ability to make my own choice to be who I want to be. That's, you know, like that's so important. And a lot of times parents don't recognize that you can give me, that's the bottom, that's the bare minimum, you know? Like, I mean, not that we can't, of course, we can be grateful, right, for the things that we were given that helped us survive. But did we feel safe in our house? Like, I know, you know how many people don't feel safe in the house they live in? Too many. Too many, right? Um, and okay, so growing up in a family where it's bad to feel emotion, that's like saying to me, that's bad to be human. And like, what are your family members? Like robots, right? You know what I mean? Um, yeah, okay. That makes sense. That makes sense. I hope you got the support out here, right? So difficult to feel my feelings. I promise you it's not impossible. And thank you for sharing, honestly. The vulnerability is encouraged and supported and admired. And I can't think of another word. Anyway, something to consider. So this is not me, pooping on parenting styles, me pooping on this or that. This is don't repeat the same. Know that you can break it. Recognize how it actually has been studied and researched to have an impact briefly, because you can have a whole presentation on the effects of trauma and abuse and things like that. But to be simplistically put, when you don't have like safety, when you don't have love and belonging, when you don't have freedom, like that has an impact. Like that's not debatable. I mean, it's debatable for those who want to maintain systems of oppression. But we don't got to go there right now, right? Anyways, definitions. I try to tell everyone, how does society define success? How does certain family members you might not rock with define love? How do people define vulnerability? You know, um, these are all important questions to ask. You can answer them, by the way. Like, how do people define success typically, right? How have you been taught to define love, or did you have to learn a new definition? The point is that once you try to change the narrative, take those things into consideration. Once you try to take into consideration the effects of and the impacts of the systems that revolve around you, um, you have to recognize that, okay, I might need to update some of my definitions, because to my mom or to my dad or to whoever it is, success, that ain't, I don't want any of that, right? Marriage, kids, degree. I mean, I know we're all in college, and I'm not trying to poop on that either. But a lot of times I know people are only in college because they're expected to go, right? And these expectations create our definitions. So I encourage y'all to create your own definition. Like, how do y'all define success? I mean, you can tell me. Try not to be the only one talking, but I'm sorry, I get into it. But how do you define strength? How does a military dad define strength, right? And how would you like to define strength? Because even if one person doesn't attribute strength to you, you can attribute it to yourself if you update that definition. You do not have to be constrained by the definitions of other people. Easier said than done. Literally everything I'm talking about is easier said than done. I recognize that. But I'm just making sure that you know that you can update those definitions, break away, create new ones. Because I recognize that a lot of people, do y'all know what unconditional love is? It's a weird little question in there, right? Well, not really weird. I am a weirdo. But unconditional love. Do you know what that means? By any chance? Did I lose you? Am I talking to myself? I mean, I talk to myself frequently, so that's fine. Give me 1 second. Okay. Okay, Raven. Shout out to Teen Titans. I'm sorry, I shouldn't joke around like that, but I love Teen Titans. Endless love, love with no boundaries. Okay, Raven, it's found it funny. Woo! Got a little nervous there. I can't see you. You know what I mean? Um, Badass character, by the way. Okay, okay, okay. Let me not dissect these. My therapist, the mind is hitting me right now. It's coming a long way. Wow, man, Steven, it's never too late. That's amazing. And that, oh my gosh, and he has a lot going on within his mind. I can only imagine too. Putting up with someone no matter what. Agape love. Shout out to the Bible, huh? Anyways, um, I love these definitions, but true unconditional love, you do need to set certain boundaries, right? You do need to set certain things. Either way, I guess what I was trying to say, I love y'all definitions of love. Um, but I hope everyone knows that they're able to separate unconditional love from conditional love. Like conditional love is that if you do X, Y, and Z for me, if you perform well in school, if you get a job, I'll display love to you. That's not love, which might be a difficult truth to accept. And I'm not Dr. Love out here. That's really not love. Having you to adjust to someone, to be different, to having to act a certain way to receive that love, that's not love. And we need to learn to address these difficult truths and recognize that we can still love someone, but it doesn't mean that what they're displaying is really actually the love we want to create in this world. We can separate the two. It's difficult. But I know there's people out there that's been like treated with love if they act a certain way, if they behave a certain way. Everyone deserves love, period. As difficult as that is for me to say, because there's so many people that I would like to turn into Batman and handle the business, if you know what I mean. But, sorry, my wife is staring at me as soon as I said that. But honestly, because I have to learn about what people do to people. And we know what people do to people, right? So it's tough to recognize that everyone deserves it. Exactly. And then these expectations lead to ruminations, expectations lead to stress. And we have to create our own expectations, even though it's easier said than done because we still have, parental expectations kind of coming at us from left and right at all times. It feels impossible. It makes sense. But you do not have to create that for yourself. We can create something different. And just flatly, it's tough to accept, but it's not love if it's making you adjust in order to be loved. The love is yours already. It's there. Cringy enough? Right. That makes sense, right? There's so many expectations. I don't even have time to like organize them and like which ones are mine. So practice self-reflection on the daily. Um, Shout out to Game of Thrones fans. My favorite character, spoiler alert. Well, I'm not gonna spoil it. Anyways, who and well, Arya is my favorite character. We don't even talk about that. Wow, my ADHD's hitting, right? So who and what have contributed to those definitions? And also, what are you going to do to try to break them down? Right? What have you been told when you express worry? Um, screw. How does your environment address feeling? These are all things that are really important. How did the middle school you went to, the high school you went to, treat or like deal with someone who expresses difficult emotions? Did we express suicidal thoughts and then boom, Baker Act? Because that's not really the greatest route. But don't get me started there. There's a lot that needs to be fixed. And of course, anyone in here that has more questions or wants to get something started to fix these certain systems, please let me know. I got you back. You clearly got support from Susanna and Juan. Anyways, how does the world typically respond to suffering? What do y'all think? I mean, we can see it. The monetary, yeah, I know. There's a lot of things that I think must fall right. Um, we gotta look at the world. I guess I'll answer it for you, right? Oh, there you go. Sorry, I didn't give y'all time to think and type. But rejection, ignore it. We got a lot of work to do, and I'm excited for y'all because I'm assuming that you know that that's not the empathetic way to respond. That's not the loving way. If you tap into your values that you want, la loquita, yeah, bueno, yo soy loco, and that's fine, right? It's like I already know that. I'll just be like crazy enough to actually believe that I can do something about it, and I encourage y'all to believe the same thing, right? But yeah, someone There could be a video of someone getting, I don't want to get too inside, but there's videos of people, getting murdered, and people are like debating, well, like maybe you deserve it. With people, imagine if someone just wants to express that they're stressed. Imagine what the response is going to be. Like, get over it, So there's work to be done, and it's discouraging and also encouraging, because I know that a lot of y'all, if you use the values that you had mentioned, could get at it and could actually do something about it. I believe it. I kind of have to believe it. I have no choice. All right, that's not my slide. So I will stick around not too long, a little bit. If anyone has questions, I'm gonna give it to Mary. Thank you so much, everyone, for hearing me rant. Sorry. I do appreciate you all for joining. I do appreciate Susanna and Juan for having me. I appreciate the thanks, and thank you all. Oh, thanks, man. Thanks. This helps me not give up, even if you all are lying, because deep down in my head, I'm like, y'all are lying. You didn't really like this. You know me. But I do appreciate it. I really do. I really do. It helps me out a lot more than you would think. Stella, don't do that. All right, I'm gonna turn off my camera so I can go cry. Take it away, Mary.
Thank you so much, Gabe. I definitely echo everybody's sentiments, and I'll make sure I'm pretty brief, students. So if you have any questions for myself and especially Gabe, we will have some time either to answer them via chat, or for those of us that join in person, we'll definitely help Susanna and Juan facilitate a Q&A. So just briefly, I wanted to talk about a great resource that Miami-Dade College has for students. It's called Single Stop. And what Single Stop is we're a college-wide program. So whether you're at Padron, Hialeah, North, wherever you are, someone at Single Stop is there and willing to help you. And what we do is we connect you to free resources. There are some resources that are also available and free to your immediate family members as well. So I'll go over some of those resources. The most important one I wanted to highlight today was we do offer free mental health counseling. At all the campuses, you can be seen by a licensed counselor in person or virtually, completely free. You can receive up to 10 sessions per semester, so those are usually done weekly. And all you have to do is contact someone at Single Stop to start that process. We can also help you with an online benefits screening tool that lets us know if you're eligible for federal benefits, such as food stamps or health care. We can also help you with those applications if you'd like. We can help with FAFSA. There is a student food pantry at every campus. There's also something called Student Emergency Aid that we can help you apply for. If your rent is past due or you have a final notice light bill, we could potentially help you receive funds up to $500 to pay that. There's also Educate Tomorrow, which is an amazing resource for students who've been impacted by the foster care system or homelessness. And then in addition to our mental health counseling, we have a lot of other great referrals, free financial coaching, additional food assistance, bus passes, tax preparation, and legal aid. So if you're interested in any of those things or you have any questions, please reach out to us. Like I mentioned, there's someone at every single campus willing and ready to help you. You'll see our email addresses on your screen if you want to screenshot that. Those of you in person, our website is just mdc.edu/singlestop, and that'll have all of our services listed, all of our contact information. So if you have any questions, definitely feel free to reach out. If you'd like to receive free mental health counseling, you can reach out to me. Again, my name's Mary Wallace. Even if you're not at the Padron campus, you can reach out to me and I will connect you with the right person. And lastly, just a little plug to follow our Instagram page. We post almost daily really great community resources in addition to the resources we have at the college. So thank you, Stella. I appreciate that. Yes, we send out weekly emails If you'd like to receive those emails, absolutely put your email in the chat, or you can email me directly and I will absolutely add you to my list no matter which campus you're at. And that's it for me. I'll turn it back over to Gabe, or if you have any other questions, I'm here. Thank you so much.
Okay, I want to thank Mary. I really want to thank Gabe. Thank you guys for being part of this project that is so amazing. I just wanted to add for all the students here and those of you online, if you do follow our chapter Instagram and you go to our link tree, you'll see the Get Help, and there you can find single stop resources and other organizations. So I just want to thank you so much for coming out here, and hopefully you got something from this.